Another 2 British citizens captured by Russian forces, charged with being mercenaries. 22-year-old Dylan Healy from Cambridgeshire was reportedly working as an aid volunteer when he was seized with another British citizen. 35-year-old Andrew Hill from Plymouth, understood to be a father of 4 and a former British soldier, was in Ukraine volunteering with the military. They were both arrested in April and are being held in the so-called Donetsk People's Republic, a breakaway region in eastern Ukraine that's been fighting Ukrainian forces since 2014. Stanislav Asayev was held by the same group for 2.5 years until he was released in a prisoner swap in 2019. He refers to the prison he was at as a concentration camp.
I was in Izolyatsya for 28 months. So all I see is torture for every day, not only for me. It's also for women in Izolyatsya and men, and it was terrible.
Were you tortured?
Yes, I am. By electricity.
Mr. Healy and Mr. Hill are facing the same mercenary charges as Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner, who were sentenced to the death penalty in June. Sky News met the 2 British men in the trenches before their arrests. They'd been living in Ukraine and maintained they were legitimately serving with the country's military. Stanislav Asayev warns the British government to take this threat of their death sentence seriously.
They can execute them. Now, this is a real threat to show Great Britain that Russia has no boundaries in relation to your country. This is a real threat. It must be understood.
The Foreign Office has said, we condemn the exploitation of prisoners of war and civilians for political purposes and have raised this issue with Russia. We are in constant contact with the government of Ukraine on their cases and are fully supportive of Ukraine in its efforts to get them released. It's understood up to 100 foreign nationals have been taken prisoner in this war so far. But one organisation working in aid in Ukraine says the arrests of British citizens are being far more widely publicised.
This tactic's being mainly used for British prisoners. We are aware that there has been some Americans, ex-American soldiers picked up in similar regions and aren't being publicly shown on this. So it's quite interesting that it's mostly British prisoners that are being used in this way. It's showing that Russia seeing Britain as a big ally to Ukraine in this, and therefore using British prisoners as a way of maybe negotiating, but also using very political tools.
Earlier this week, Ukraine announced the largest exchange of prisoners of war since Russia invaded, securing the release of 144 of its soldiers. It seems there's far more political capital in holding British prisoners, and there's great concern over their fate.